Great to be with you, John and Bianca. Thanks for having me on what could be a very historic day.
For sure, you bet.
Story for Ron DeSantis. History sometimes is unfriendly to those who enter the presidential race, but Governor DeSantis has been on tour touting his record, and we caught up with him earlier this month, and this is what he told us about why he thinks, and no, he couldn't talk about it officially at the time, why he thinks he can be president. Take a listen.
We've had a lot of success. I mean, I think that we've created this, when you do this stuff with politics, you got to have those grassroots people that'll send, and we've been able to build up a great army. And then the fact, like Florida, we've gained so much wealth that people came in my reelection and they're like, you know what, I want to do whatever I can to help you because I don't want to have to move again.
Also, the New York Times is talking about the fact that Ron DeSantis and his allies have a $200 million plan for beating Trump. But Governor, you know this, you've run for president. You can have a lot of money. I think about Jeb Bush. He had a lot of money going into 2016. It wasn't enough. What do you think right now is the main reason why Ron DeSantis wants to run for president?
Well, he's had a good run as Florida governor. I understand that. I think one of the challenges that he's going to have is answering a very obvious question. If you wanted to be president, how come you ran for governor just last year and you asked for a 4-year job? And then you barely had gotten into it before you were already looking for another 4-year job. So that's a challenge. And I think that sometimes it doesn't matter who's running for an office. You need to answer the question, do you not like the one you have? And why did you ask folks to give it to you if you didn't plan to keep it? And I do think that's a legitimate question to ask of people. It happens. People say, look, I wanted to run for Senate or governor or Congress, whatever it may be. And then as soon as I got elected, I started looking at something else. But I think voters, not just in one state, but across the country, have a right to not only ask that question, but get an answer to it.
Sure.
Right. And obviously with his inner circle, he has his wife.
And something that's interesting about those types of practical questions is that, and especially someone like Ron DeSantis, he just would not be able to answer that well. Not only because there's no real good answer for it, because the real answer is because the Republican establishment really wants to get rid of Trump right now, and they think that I'm kind of like the only person who's closest to be able to do it. So I was like, okay, that's why he's in the race. That's it. But he doesn't have the charisma or the social skills to answer that in any type of way that doesn't look bad. Anytime he's on camera, he is just showcasing. I mean, he be fake smiling really hard. He rubs people the wrong way. So, yeah, man, this dude's gonna crumble.
Casey behind him putting out that video we showed a clip of before. Governor Huckabee, since you have rolled out a presidential campaign, yourself, let's talk a moment about the strategy here. We also saw that black alligator, sort of a rebrand for DeSantis' website here, and the whole Elon effect, choosing to do this in this manner. How do you think that will play as a strategy?
I think in this day of social media, it could be very effective because traditional ways of running for office have certainly been blown up by the presence of social media, the immediacy of it. I think most candidates will still try to do some event and build around it because you'll have that momentum, you'll have the excitement and the energy of a crowd. But this is, I would say, somewhat of a risky strategy on the part of Ron DeSantis, but not really. He'll have an enormous number of eyeballs watching to see not just what he says, but the medium in which he is saying it. So it could be the forerunner of things to come. But I will say this, running for president is really not running in 50 states. It's like running for governor in about 5 or 6 states to begin with. Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, Florida. And frankly, if you don't win those early states, I don't care how well you're doing in California or Texas or Missouri, you're not going to be president. You have to win the early primary.
He said Missouri. Missouri. No, it's interesting because Mike Huckabee's like sounding incredibly practical right now. Everything he's saying is.
Right. And that's really what people forget when they say, oh, this person is really going to have a terrific campaign. Well, let's see. It all depends on how well one does in the early states.
So very true. And it's so early in the process, but not really, late in the process if you think about it, even though it's not even 2024 yet.
And I appreciate all of y'all, man, for sure. Absolutely. I fuck with y'all. Oh, we're going to have all types of crazy merchandise. We getting all of that together for sure, no doubt. But nah, y'all support is both appreciated and needed. And we moving.
One of the things, if you talk to Ron DeSantis' surrogates, they will always bring this up in conversation that, maybe obviously the poll numbers aren't leaning in his favor right now, but there are real factors affecting Donald Trump's candidacy potentially, the legal troubles being one of them. Now, today, President Trump had just appeared at a hearing remotely for Alvin Bragg's criminal case in New York. He says, quote, "I believe my First Amendment rights, freedom of speech have been violated." They're trying to not allow him to talk about these cases publicly. His attorneys also wrote to Attorney General Merrick Garland in response to Special Counsel Jack Smith's probe into Mar-a-Lago, and they said, unlike President Biden and his son Hunter, the Biden family, President Trump is being treated unfairly. How much of a risk are these legal cases for the Trump candidacy?
I think they strengthen Donald Trump as a candidate. I think they strengthen his support from his very strong and frankly unflinching base. People look at this and they see what's happening. Donald Trump is not.
Yo, my shirt, the shirts that we make here are gonna be mad. It's gonna be stuff that has sex appeal, but also it's gonna be some just hilarious. We gonna have fun. I'm gonna have we gonna have the funniest shit ever. And I'm gonna get everybody involved because I'm not necessarily like it. When it comes to fashion, like if I see it and I like it, or not even just fashion, like design. Like if I have good taste, but I kind of got to have examples and stuff. So I'm gonna be getting everybody involved with like, what should we make and which direction should we go in and stuff like that. Because you know what I'm saying.
Not being targeted because they really honestly think there's something criminal to investigate. They're scared to death he's going to win, just like he did in 2016. And they did everything they could to illegally and unjustly tie him to Russia. They haunted him not just before the election with a bunch of absolute nonsense and used the power of the federal government to do it, but then they spent the next 4 years doing everything they can, again, illegally, trying to stage what was nothing less than a coup d'etat against an elected president. People are sick of that.
Yo, so Mike Huckabee, he went from, and that's why I said Huckabee, I was like, he's sounding surprisingly practical and level-headed. That's just how you know that so many of these people are just putting on a show. Because as soon as he was done being very pragmatic when it came to Ron DeSantis, he turned on his MAGA pandering and started saying that, oh, Donald Trump is just a victim and all of these investigations into him have been illegal or are still illegal. And they're just trying to bring him down. He turned it right back on. He went from being pragmatic to being a charlatan in the span of 5 minutes.
So if they think that this weakens Donald Trump, they're making a huge mistake. Yeah. It does not, nor does it weaken his supporters.
And what we've seen actually is some of the opponents in the GOP field come out and defend Donald Trump because they have to, because some of these allegations, I'm thinking specifically about the grand jury in Georgia, are so ridiculous. You have no choice but to defend President Trump on that one. Governor, always great to see you. Thank you for your time.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks, Governor.
That's why I'm saying, he went from, but again, that's how you know, because like I said, you got to keep in mind, a lot of the